Since it's winter time, I thought I'd start you off with a relatively simple pattern, the Soft-Hackle Hare's Ear. It's one of the older patterns in existence, but it's relatively easy to tie. It only requires a few materials and just some very basic techniques. What you'll need to tie the fly is just a couple of materials, or a couple, three materials. You'll need a 1x long hook, something like the Mustad 3906B or the Umpqua 101 or the Daiichi 1560. Any soft hackle, thus the name Soft-Hackle Hare's Ear, will do, but my most used are an India saddle hackle for 10s and 12s. 14s and below, usually I end up using a Partridge feather, but again, any of the soft hackles will do. It just depends on the what you're trying to imitate and the effect you're going for. Ribbing will be, at least on my flies, will tend to be the ultra wire. Most of the traditional recipes call for mylar tinsel, but I think the ultra wire is a little bit more durable. I tend to weight the flies just ever so slightly to help them break the surface tension. Just a few 2 or 3 turns of lead, or about a half dozen turns of non-lead. Again, you're not trying to sink the fly, you're just trying to get it to break the surface tension. You'll need some glue. The most common, most useful, most used would be the Dave's Flexament. Speaking of dubbing, you'll need some coloration. Usually a dark hare's ear, thus the name Soft-Hackle Hare's Ear, or an olive, or some combination that you come up with that you think imitates your local insect population better. Is always make sure that you mash down your barb before you tie the fly. It doesn't make any sense to be out on the stream with this beautiful fly or a fishing fly and have it have the point snap off on you when you go to mash the barb down. You get yourself started. Tie in your lead or non-lead underbody. For a size 14, which is what we've got in the vise, I usually figure on about 6 wraps of the non-lead. It's about, give or take. Again, one extra wrap or one fewer wrap isn't going to make or break you. Again, all you're looking to do is break the surface tension. Good way to look at it is to take the hook shank, divide it in half, tie from there to about the 3/4 point, or maybe just a wrap or so beyond. Then take your thread, add it to the hook, and capture that underbody. Sometimes you'll have to kind of physically maneuver things around a little bit to get it where you want it. But the basic idea is to leave enough room up here to tie off the soft hackle and give yourself a little bit of a thread head. Obviously, if you tie one of these with a bead head, the bead will pretty much set you up in terms of where you need to be on the hook. Once you've got this set where you want it, take your Flexament or your Zap-A-Gap or whatever glue that you've decided to use and coat it. Particularly if you're working with lead, as the lead will discolor your fly as it gets wet. Now Flex-Cement, which is what this was, will stay wet for a few minutes, give you enough time to actually tie your fly. What you want to do, if you don't have any leftover material from a previous tie, is take and strip off all of this, or most of it, so that you've got a stem to work with, like this. Then take this center section up here. If I were to grab hold of it and just pull the barbules back, you want to leave yourself about yay much. Now here you can do a couple of things. You can roll it up, and I will generally clip it off and save myself just a little bit of a tag in there. I tend to prefer a shorter tail. The idea being that what I want is when the when the water forces the soft hackle back, I want it to meet and join with the tail. If you want to hold the tail up, put a wrap underneath. Not quite, give or take, it should be over the barb and maybe just a little bit under half the length of the hook shank. That gives you the tail, it gives you the movement that you're after. It gives you the impression that you want to create, but it isn't overwhelming the fly. Then tie in your ribbing. Again, almost all the way back. And I say almost all the way because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put a wrap of dubbing behind the rib so that people can't tell or can't quite tell where the rib emerges and where it doesn't. Now here you've got a couple of choices. We're going to go ahead and take the dubbing I showed earlier. The Flex-Cement is still a little tacky, which will help bind down the dubbing. And what you can do is you can just simply add your dubbing to your thread. Now remember, it's easier to put on than take off. So make it a relatively small amount to start with. Wrap it once, maybe twice in front of the rib, and then one turn behind the ribbing. Then work your way forward. Again, adding dubbing as you go. As you get a little better at it, you can often judge how much you need. What you're after is a slightly tapered body. Think of a carrot, thin on the one end, a little thicker on the other. And you want the thicker end up toward the front of the fly. And basically what you want to do is you want to get those wraps of lead covered. Now, a lot of people will become immediately and overly concerned with all that extra hair. I tend to like a fuzzy body. I think it gives the fly a little bit more movement. I think it looks a little bit more buggy. Then take your rib material and wrap it in fairly even segments toward the front. I figure on a size 14 I should be able to get about 5 wraps, good solid wraps. And you're almost done. Now, you remember that feather we cut the tail from? What you've got left is this. This is one of those proverbial one feather flies. Take the section that you left here, trap it with your thread, and wrap it down securely. Don't worry if you've got a few barbules sticking out the front. Not at the moment anyway. Take and just turn your hackle once, twice. Basically, that's all you need is 2 wraps. And what you're doing is you're trapping that stem. Again, you're not worried about the fact that a few barbules are sitting out the front. You got a little bit of a weird hairdo right now. Because what you're going to do is you're going to come forward and you're going to grab these 3 fingers, and you're going to pull them back. And you're going to start to tie it off. Just trap them down with your thread. And watch them stand up. Now notice what I was talking about before. When the water brings that hackle back, it'll blend with the tail. Now what you want to do is you just want to form a small thread head. Maybe a little bigger in the back. Now you can use half hitches, you can use a hand whip finish, you can use a variety of different techniques. I personally prefer the Mattarelli whip finisher. And you are pretty much done and have a basic soft-hackle hare's ear. What you'll do is you'll add a little Dave's Flex Cement to the head. Just to seal that whip finish. And it's more or less ready to put in your fly box.